So welcome to the Voices of Fostering podcast. My name's Tim. Today we are joined by Mishak, who is a trainer for the National Fostering Group. Could you just tell us, Mishak, a little bit about your role within the organisation before we talk about your book club?
Yeah. So I'm part of the training team. So we roll out training for our foster carers, for our colleagues. Where do I start with my role? Actually, it's so multifaceted. Some of it's training, some of it's developing new content. Some of it is spent, I spend an hour in what we call the ideas factory with my colleagues, coming up with new and innovative ways to, get training across or come up with new ideas. Sometimes they're amazing ideas, sometimes not so much. but yeah, and yeah, just a variety of things, but predominantly, upskilling, training our colleagues, training our foster carers, empowering our foster carers to support their young people. Ultimately, is what we do. So our young people can have a foster carers who can support them. So yeah, pretty much.
And how do you do that? When you speak about empowering the carers, how do you do that?
Yeah. So through training, through discussions, we do like breakout sessions, we do case studies, we have discussions, as I've already mentioned, um, and just support them. So, for example, therapeutic parenting is one of our key kind of training modules. So we kind of guide them through the training module so they get to learn things from, like safeguarding, all the way to, if you want to get really geeky, we talk about the brain science and what's actually going on inside the brain when we talk about trauma, when we talk about ADHD, when we talk about mental health and well-being.
Yeah.
So there's a number of things. There's a learning element that's in there, but there's also a supportive element in there as well.
Yeah.
So as I said, like we've been rolling out mental health training, first aid, mental health, well-being, just so promote our foster carers and all of us actually looking after ourselves in our role. So yeah, there's so many aspects of my job, but ultimately it's about learning. And empowering them to take the knowledge and put it into practice.
Yeah, it sounds like you said multifaceted, but
Yeah,
kind of creative aspects to it, and then an overarching mental health umbrella as well, I guess, which is very important
absolutely.
for everybody. Right, we wanted to talk to you about your book club, the
Oh yeah.
National Fostering Group Book Club. Now, you're currently running this with foster carers. Can you just tell us where the idea came from? Was it you? Was it someone else who threw it at you? And just tell us a bit about how it's grown, because it sounds like it definitely has grown.
Oh yeah. So the initial idea came from just being on training. And usually you get some foster carers who are really proactive about sharing their learning. They'll be like, oh, I read this book or I watched this documentary, which links into what we're talking about. So I suddenly got the idea as, oh, it's not just me who's a so-called boring book reader, as my son would call me. Because we're not boring at all. We're highly entertaining people. But I realise there are other people out there that really get a lot from learning from books, and then using books as a way to empower ourselves to be better at our roles, be better at our jobs. So initially it's like me and probably two foster carers, and then I kind of shared the idea that it became this bigger thing and I thought actually I'm sure if there's two or three of us, I dare say there's more readers around the organisation who want to get involved. So we started to explore the idea and put the feelers out, and yeah, there was a good number of people who wanted to get involved. So yeah, and then it grew to include the clinical team. So the clinical team are involved. So they come along and they're involved in the whole process. And yeah, and just spreading the word, and more people are joining all the time. So as we just are going through a phase of just spreading more awareness now, getting more people involved, because the more the merrier, the more perspectives, the more people that can share their own point of view on the books, add to the book club, give feedback on the book club. That's what's going to help it grow and develop and become something that's going to offer more value for all of us.
Yeah, and it goes back to empowerment, I guess. Like you said at the beginning, you're empowering
Yeah.
yourself and each other and with the knowledge from the books. But why do you think? Why is it? Why are these stories and books that you share within the club? Why? uh, How do they and why are they so powerful between you? How do you share that information between you?
Well, I think the power is in the people. And what I mean by that is the more people we have on the book club, we've got more perspectives because that's the power of books.
Yeah,
I can read it and I'll look at it one way. Somebody else will read it and they'll take something else from it. Another person will read it and they'll extrapolate something additional from it. So, and on our last book club that we did, that's exactly what happened. Um, where again we had loads of people with different perspectives, and I went away from that thinking, actually, I've learnt something. I've read the book, but did I really read the book?
yeah, yeah,
Or actually, I've been able to. I'm grateful I was able to lean on somebody else's perspective
yeah.
to empower myself to say, actually, you know what? What they said about the book was really, really quite interesting. I never looked at it that way.
What was the
And if
book,
someone
Shaq?
says
What was
something along
the
the lines of, "What's the name of the book?"
Yeah? What was the book where you both had different opinions on there?
Oh, so it's a book called "They F You Up."
Right. Okay.
Interesting book title, I know, but it talks about parenting and how early childhood experiences are affected by different types of parenting styles. Um, it's got a little bit of controversy in there, but that's all good because it gets the conversation going, and it definitely got the conversation going during the last book club. Um, so yeah, and again, it just developed different perspectives, and it was an interesting read. For me at least, it wasn't. Everyone's different, For some people, it was a more of a difficult read. For other people, they really enjoyed it. Some other people took something useful away from it. So whether you enjoy it or not, if you take something useful away from it, that's again another key aim of the book club.
Yeah. And I guess if we focus that in a little bit on the world of fostering and the National Fostering Group as well, how do you guys choose the books? What kind of themes and topics do you kind of explore through the books?
Oh, well, the idea is to explore as many topics as possible, whether it's autism, whether it's talking about attachment theories, whether it's about just anything that links into therapeutic parenting, anything that can help us to, because ultimately as foster carers and as colleagues playing a supportive role, even myself as a lowly trainer, it's all about that empowerment. And I know I'll keep coming back to that word, but it's about enabling them to build relationships. And I would say that one of the fundamental aspects of being able to build a relationship is understanding. So when we understand a little bit more about autism, when we understand a little bit more about attachment theories, when we understand more about how early childhood experiences, can aid us in our development or be detrimental in our development, it helps us to understand our young people coming into the organization
Yeah.
and into their families, I should say, and it's again, we can take these learnings and put them into practice. I'm not a foster carer myself, but I'm a dad, and I've taken some of these things that I've learned from the book club and put them into my own parenting. And reading that last book that I mentioned, it really made me reflect as a parent.
Yeah.
You're sitting there. I'll be sitting at my son's basketball matches because he plays basketball, and I'll be on the sidelines. I've only got a certain amount of time to read a book, you see, so I've got to steal as much opportunity as possible. But I will read it. I'll be like, oh my goodness, that's me that they're talking about in this book, and it can
Yeah.
really make you reflect. But then you can put that reflection into practice and try new things and try different things. And looking after a teenager, if anyone's looked after teenagers before, every teenager is different, of course, but absolutely just being able to step into that world and understand it a little bit, that book, massively helped me with that one there. So
Yeah. As parents and I think as foster carers, having those qualities to be able to show I think it boils down to being able to listen and show a bit of empathy. And I think you're halfway there, aren't you? And if you can do those things genuinely, then you've got a deep
absolutely,
relationship there.
yeah, absolutely. I see it as, in terms of being able to step into our young people's world. Like on the weekend, I got involved in a bit of anime. Like I'm not a massive anime person, but you watch these anime cartoons, and I said, you know what? Let me sit down with him and see what it's all about. And it's amazing how much you can develop your relationship just by stepping into their world. So again, just something I took from the book was, just finding different ways in which you can connect,
Yeah.
and how it can foster that relationship. Be you a carer, be you a parent.
I just wanted to talk to you a little bit more about that development, actually, because I wanted to know what role does the book club play within the personal development of the people involved with it, with the carers, the professionals, and I guess ultimately the children that are involved in this as well that we care for. Like, so how does the book club play that kind of development role?
Absolutely. So it's a I suppose it's outside of the normal training that we do. It's a new and different way, a bit more of a relaxed way of learning for those that want to be proactive about their learning. Because I always see fostering as a real learning experience. There's always something new to learn, and just the age of development. So again, I know I keep bleating on about this word, but when we can empower ourselves with a bit of knowledge, then it gives us the opportunity to put it into practice. And there's many foster carers out there. I'll go on training sessions and they're like, "Oh, Shaq, I've got this great resource that relates to what we're talking
Yeah.
about," or "I learnt this thing," or actually some of them have got previous professions, which really, gives real insight into the care for young people or experience that they had. So again, it's just another space where they can come to the book club. And it's whether they're a reader or not. You don't. I want this. I've designed it so you don't necessarily have to be a massive reader. Even if you want to come along and just kind of get involved in the conversation, that
Yeah.
works as well. And we're also exploring the idea to cater to non-readers of looking at documentaries, because everyone likes a doc. Tim, do you like a documentary?
Yeah. I love a
I
documentary.
could tell there's Yeah, I could tell there's a look in your eye, like a bit of a Channel 4 documentary or something on YouTube or what have you. But again, loads of people will watch like a documentary. So again, with there's opportunities, we could talk about books or documentaries which relate to some of the things that are affecting young people. So, for example, the Adolescence show that came on Netflix.
Yeah.
So again, it's a bit like the book club with books. It's good to hear different people's perspectives, and again, we all walk away from that conversation with something new. So we've all learned something new.
That leads me on to my next question very nicely, actually, because I was going to talk to you. Has there been a particular book or discussion within the book club which you found massively inspiring, or that you've seen inspire a whole group of people, or something that's just really changed the perspectives? Because I've just finished James Clear's Atomic Habits,
Oh, okay, yeah,
which is amazing. It's just about
Ooh,
making small changes in your life, and they amount to
absolutely.
massive, massive changes overall long term. Anything like that? Come on, inspire us, Shaq.
Yeah. So I've just read. I'm currently reading a book called Black Box Thinking.
Uh-huh.
It's a book I've had for a number of years, because what happens is sometimes I buy a load of books and then I don't get around to reading them.
Yeah.
But I pulled it out from the collection the other day, and it basically talks about, it's called Black Box Thinking because it talks about the aeroplane industry and how it utilizes it learns from its mistakes.
Yeah.
It's an industry which is all about learning from its mistakes.
Yeah.
Every near miss, every error, every accident that ever happens, there's openness and transparency, and they use that information to keep the aeroplanes in the sky, to keep people safe. Yeah, not everywhere's like that, but it talks about how, just how, even for ourselves in personal development, that mistakes are part of that personal development. And how, trial and error basically is where, is what inspires people and which drives people forward in their careers. It's that learning opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's when you don't want to learn from mistakes that things get repeated. I
Yeah.
just find it really interesting how it uses different scenarios, it uses different case studies, it uses different industries, it compares different industries in terms of how they use trial and error or don't use trial and error, or or learn from their mistakes, and then applies it to a personal perspective about how we can use it to develop ourselves as well. So
Yeah.
I find it really interesting, really, really interesting.
Personal development, man. That's what it's all about. Um,
Oh, absolutely. So
I just wanted to end with the National Fostering Group, obviously a big organisation. The book club is one example of the kind of day-to-day get-togethers that you have for foster carers. But what is it you're finding people who you work with and the foster carers are coming to the book club for?
I think they're coming together just to be with other foster carers, and because I see it as another type of support network,
Mm.
where people can come together and, they can talk about the books, so they can also talk about their own experiences. It's such a powerful thing when I hear someone say, "Oh, it's not just me who this is happening to, or it's not just me who's experiencing this." It creates a bit of a collective, and then you can start to reflect with other people. I think people are coming along to learn from other people. I think some people are coming along to be honest. So the last one, oh my goodness, it was beautiful. There was someone had a very strong view
Yeah.
about the book, and that's fine. That was the idea of the book. They had a very strong view, and in contrast to somebody else's view. But there was a bit of a middle. The conversation was respectful, but it was lots to it. There's lots to extrapolate from that conversation. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
watching, both of those dynamics, both polarities, talking about this book. And yeah, it looked like a bit of a ding dong, but it wasn't. It was what we call a dialectic. It was actually, oh, this is what I think. This is what I think, and this is what I don't think, and this is some evidence. And actually, from that discussion and observing that, absolutely, I took a load of learnings away and things that I didn't really think about before. So it's perfectly fine to have different opinions.
Yeah.
But do you know what? We learn something and we always walk away from it shaking hands at the end of it. And that's the idea,
Yeah.
and we've learned something new and something we can take away and put into practice afterwards if we want to. And it's a space for people to share their own books as well. So at this moment in time, the clinical team play a key role in, they will kind of select the book that we read, but that's going to be opened up soon so that foster carers can put forward their own recommendations as well. So as long as it's in line with some of our therapeutic parenting principles and it gives us some learning or relates to some of the training that we already do, then absolutely. So we do like a vote and then they can kind of bring their own books in as well. So it's a bit of a democracy. That's the
Yeah.
idea. So whether you're a reader, you're a non-reader, whether you like watching documentaries, whether you read books or not, it's a collective space where people can come together, and that's the ultimate aim, where we can come together, we can learn, we can take something from it.
Shaq, it's a fantastic idea, and thanks for coming on and telling us about it. I hope it continues to grow and inspire.
Yeah.
I want to be part of it.
There's always a space for you and anybody else, even producer in the background. Anyone who wants to come along and join, all they need to do is go onto our learning platform, search the book club, and you'll see all the information there in terms of the dates when you can join and get involved. So we've kickstarted a new book now, so there's still plenty of time for anyone that wants to get involved. Sorry, Tim, I was always going to do some shameless
100%.
promotion here.
It's got to be done.
But for anyone that wants to get involved, absolutely, who's within the organisation, then absolutely, you can find out all the information on our internal platforms.
Pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me along. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Voices of Fostering. If you'd like to find out more, head online and search National Fostering Group and make this the year you foster.